It's glorious. And I don't hide my age. I'm 70, almost soon to be 71. And it's only now in this period of my life that I can do this.
Hello, Rita. How are you doing today?
Hello, Victoria. I'm doing very well, and it's lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm home in my apartment in the Bronx,
In
New
New
York
York.
City.
That's actually not too far from where I am. You're on the other side of the continent, but we're just a couple
Yes,
hours away from each other. So
yes.
tell us about your music journey and how did the harp came into your life?
A beautiful story, and all the answers to your questions are also going to be portrayed in the theater piece I'm doing. So, this is lovely to give people the background. My father was a prominent violist and professor of viola at the Eastman School of Music in upstate New York, where I was born. And one day the telephone rang, and the harp teacher at Eastman had been given small troubadour harps from Line Healy to start an experimental class because Line Healy wanted to know if these small harps could be used with children in the public schools. So she called several colleagues who had children who knew their notes and had had piano background, of which I was one. And we were 6 children in this initial class. And the experiment was supposed to be 3 days, but it was such a success. We had free class lessons with her every Friday for the rest of the year. We performed everywhere, every women's group, newspapers, whatever. And at the end of the year, I was so taken with this, I asked my parents if I could continue privately.
So that obviously lasts way more than 3 days. Oh.
Yes, it has.
And how have you found, having the father that you have, who is a prominent musician, how have that influenced you as a musician?
Yes, you see, my harp teacher, Eileen Malone at Eastman, taught me the mechanics of playing the harp. But it was my father who instilled in me the musicianship. He was an extraordinary artist, a musician, and he'd listen to me practice and he'd run downstairs and he'd say, "No, you can't play it that way. Come to the piano. We're going to study." And he really influenced me in such a major way. The thing is, though, Victoria, when you have a famous father in music, it's pressure. I felt not that he really put the pressure on me, I put the pressure on myself because he was so revered at Eastman. And I felt that if I made a mistake on stage, I would be desecrating his famous name. So this has been actually a lifelong challenge for me to accept my humanity, that perfection on stage is maybe not a realistic expectation, even though I expect it of myself. Yes.
And that is such an interesting tension because I have heard so many people talk about combating that perfectionism, yet innately, I think it's hard for us not want to be better, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. To work.
Yeah. So I have read some of the websites and articles that you have talked about your journey with the harp, and you have mentioned that the harp is much more than just an instrument for you. It gives you solace and is your constant companion throughout the life. So we're going to dive into some of the ups and downs in your life later, but overall, when you think about your relationship with the harp over the year, how has it changed? What really stood out for you about the harp that really grabs you to be this constant companion that have sailed with you for so many years?
Yes, I don't know if there's really a concrete answer to that, only that that first day when Miss Malone put the harp against my shoulder, I had been playing piano. I had been improvising and singing since I was 3 years old. But at age 9, when the harp came to me, I talk about it as if a star of destiny aligned. There was something about embracing this instrument and its sound quality that just captivated me. and has captivated me for my entire life. Now, the theater piece really is about two love affairs, the love affair of my husband and the love affair of the harp and I. And in the end, when things with the husband don't go so well, it is the love affair with the harp that saves me.
I'm glad that the harp doesn't give up on us,
No,
isn't
no,
it?
not at all.
And it's wonderful. I can't wait to talk about your show because that theater show is what brought me to you. And we're going to
Yes.
definitely talk more about that. And let's kind of start layering the different aspect of your life that kind of lead to this creation of your show. And let's start by that tension between, being a musician and also, having that love affair with your husband, which I understand is also a musician. And
Yes.
how have your background and perhaps the time that you were at when this happened, because that was a little bit time ago and the world is a bit different. How does that tension and the fact that you want something for your own sit with your husband? How does he take it? How had that changed the dynamics perhaps between the two of you? And the fact that you two are both musicians too, that must be a little bit of competition going on.
Well, the journey was interesting because I was really cloistered. I never dated. I never went to parties as an adolescent. I just practiced. The harp was everything. And when I went to the Eastman School of Music college, in my college years, I didn't feel ready to leave home. I had been very protected in this old-fashioned Italian way. And Miss Malone was very old school. She taught us you either have a career or you have a marriage and a home, but you don't do both. And freshman week of freshman year, I meet Victor Costanzi, my future husband. And it was what the French call a coup de foudre. I mean, it was a lightning bolt. And I didn't know what to do. I had never experienced anything like this. It was such a profound love, and it could not be denied. And so, fast forward, so the whole life of motherhood, being a wife and being a mother, no money, trying to raise two children. My husband was never home. He was always freelancing to bring home money for us, and I would teach, and I was home with the children and completely conflicted. When I was with the children, I wanted to be on stage, and when I was on stage, I worried about the children. And I mean, there was no happiness. There was no happiness. And I came to New York following my husband's move here. And then in 2013, we divorced. And so now from 2013 to present, I have been alone on this journey of discovering myself and really fulfilling what I had always dreamt of and seen myself as, this woman with her harp, fulfilling this destiny without now any side issues, without being the attention being drawn to a husband or children. That's all done. And here I am, and it's only now that I could even commit to a theater piece, which is all day and all night, memorizing a 46-page script, memorizing 50 pages of music, and putting them together and practicing talking while I'm playing some of the most difficult repertoire. It's amazing. And I'm grateful that now I'm just alone and I can commit all day and night to it.
And I feel like without that journey, though, even if you're just suddenly alone, it might be a different story that you're telling, because so much of what your show is about all those struggles, them having to, make the choices between, do I want to go on stage? Am I going to worry about my kid? There's a lot going on in there when you were going through that period.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have in an article said that many people quit because, the going gets tough. And I wonder for you, How did you build your own resilience and the grit to help you persevere through those years to become the woman you are now?
So when I moved to New York, I landed in the highest theatrical office of the world. Don't tell me how, but Hal Prince, 22 Tony Award winning producer of the big shows, Phantom of the Opera, Cats, and all of that. Through a friend, I was introduced to Hal Prince's associate, Arthur Masella, who became my director here of another piece I was doing. And one day we're up in that office of Rockefeller Center, this iconic office with pictures of Leonard Bernstein and Angela Lansbury and everybody all around. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, how did I get here? And I was telling him, I said, you know, Artie, many of the people I went to Eastman with have now quit. And they've become lawyers or accountants or ambulance drivers, whatever. And he gave me one of his piercing director looks. And he said, and why didn't you quit? And no one had ever asked me this. And I thought about it, and I looked at him and I said, because for me, it's like eating, breathing, sleeping. I must. And he said, exactly. And I tell my students this, only if it's I must, would you have the strength to put up with all the rejection, all the poverty, all the challenges, all the setbacks of, you know, a music career. It's not easy. And so, I mean, the thought of quitting, sure, there are days I get exhausted and all my colleagues and friends my age are now all retired, and they go out for lunch and they go to museums and they have the good life, and they say, Rita, it's really fun. Why don't you join us? And I say, no, I'm grateful for this compelling reason that I have to get out of bed every day and to work. And this is my life. It's really a vocation. It's not a job, which means I do it whether I'm paid or not, and often I'm not. And I just do it because of the love. I must.
And this is such a coincidence. Before I talked to you, I was talking to another friend, and I was saying how when I listen to the people I interview in here, who are a lot of times are musician, and as you say, musicians' life is not easy. And I said, man, they gotta have to really want to choose this life in order to get into this career, because there's no other people holding them accountable than themselves, because they are their own boss a lot of times when you're a musician. So I can hear that fire in you that says this is your calling, and you have to put in your 110% in it.
Yes. And when COVID hit and we were all locked down and my friends are doing Zoom cocktails, what's Rita doing? She's pacing in her living room, memorizing the 46-page script. I was so grateful that the harp was my companion during that time. I mean, we couldn't see anyone. We couldn't have anybody over for dinner. We were locked down. And when you live alone, that's tough. You don't even have your family with you. And yet I went every day to the harp and I put this theater piece together during COVID.
Wow. See, there's a lot of good that came out of COVID.
Yes.
And despite all the unsettledness and,
Yes.
unpleasant outcomes, if you will. I read somewhere, I'm just going to ask you this because I think this could be an interesting discussion. So you said, follow your passion and follow your heart, right? So I have heard, and sometimes I believe follow my passion is not necessarily the best thing, but follow my heart is definitely a go-to for me. So I'm just wondering, in your experience, when you think about music, and it's such an emotional experience, when we're trying to make these decisions and we really feel that strong passion towards something, but maybe there's this logical self that says, no, this other thing is easier or this thing is better. How do you ground yourself back to what you really truly believe in? And how do you make those tough decisions sometimes when really like the getting is getting tough?
I will say, Victoria, I have many friends, many colleagues who did not follow their heart. They did not follow their passion. They followed their head. Maybe that was the way they were raised. There's no judgment here. It's just they decided earning money was more important than listening to their heart. And as I meet them, I mean, I even meet people and sometimes I'm in a restaurant in New York and somebody starts talking to me from the next table and I hear that they were an actor wannabe, but they couldn't bear the struggle. They couldn't bear the financial deprivation. They quit, get the day job. So the actor in them who's so longing to be on stage is not fulfilled. For me, it was never a question. I always followed my heart. The world didn't understand. I mean, I made decisions. I quit the Vancouver Symphony. I've come to New York. I've been offered lovely things. If they weren't artistically right, I said no, even though I desperately needed, the income. I will never, ever compromise my art or my integrity. And to me, being an artist with the capital A is that you must um, be who you are, follow your heart, and fulfill that star of destiny that is uniquely yours, no one else's.
That is such a beautiful transition to my next question for you about your teaching. So you're the teacher for my children's harp teacher, Dr. Joye, and she spoke very fondly of you. And she said that you not only teach your students to be the best harpists, but you also teach them to be great artists in their life. And I'm wondering, how do you translate that into your teaching? There's such a technical aspect to the harp, which I'm sure a lot of people can do very well. I found the emotional aspect of being a musician challenging. I think that is the part that where I found sometimes having a really good teacher that understand that aspect would make a difference. And it does sound to me, through Joy, that you pay attention to that. How do you take that into teaching, and how do people respond to the fact that there's more than playing a good scale to making you a great musician?
It's a very good question, Victoria. Thank you. It's a difficult question because the world is so preoccupied with technique these days. And of course, this new generation coming up is so phenomenal. I mean, they play rings around, those of us who are of a different generation. And yet the soul is missing. And so my uniqueness in the harp world, I would say, is that there aren't very many of us who are actually musicians who play the harp. There are many great harpists in the world, but to be a musician who plays the harp is something separate. So many great violinists in the world, but to be a musician who plays the violin. And this was always what seemed to distinguish me in my growing up and in my career. What people noticed immediately was the artistry and the musicianship that came through me, came out of me. So I work with the students. I yell, I dance, I sing, I beat them up. I do whatever I have to do. Beat them up metaphorically to bring out the music. I say, if you're just going to sit there and play like a machine, go type a computer. You don't belong on stage. The audience isn't paying to hear notes. They're paying to hear what my father used to define music as the white spaces between the notes. That's where the art lies. And that's where you as an individual speak and come through your suffering, your hardships, your soul, whatever it is. What do you want to communicate through these white spaces between the notes? then your music has interest. Then your audience is engaged. If you're just playing a technical exercise, I recommend go do something else. Yeah, this is what I strive to nurture in the students, to bring out the emotion and the music. The famous ballerina Pavlova said, not technique for technique's sake. You must never see technique. She said the technique is there only in service to the music. That's it.
Beautiful. So much to think about and unpack in there. And yes, I think if you want to just play the perfect technique, go type at a computer. I agree with that. I can work the keyboard like no others, but I'm not a good musician. I'll just put it that way. Yes, I do want to ask you about sort of that journey that we have to go through, maybe with our teacher or as a musician on our own, when we are so deeply connected with the instrument, not just in that sort of technical way, but in that deeper level. They're probably going to come times where I would say that we're going to take a lot of things personally, which we should. Bear with me. But I think that's part of the artistry. What I'm hearing is that personal connection, that you being authentic and communicating your experience is part of the artistry of making a good musician. Is that what I'm hearing? And that perhaps it's our job to make sure that part of us come through when we're performing?
Yes. I mean, if I had had an easy life, Victoria, let's just be clear, I wouldn't have very much to say. It's because my life has been so challenging and so difficult and so painful. And I mean, there's a famous scene in the theater piece where I'm at the famous Tanglewood Festival, and Leonard Bernstein was conducting, and he humiliated me in front of the whole orchestra one night. And I went home and said to my father, I am quitting music, because if this is the way it's going to be, I'm not doing this. And yet it was that deep love that saw me through that horrible, horrible time of my life. And even now here in New York, lately I've had so much adversity, and modern psychology, I found out, has a name for this, and it's called the testing effect. And what doesn't kill you strengthens you. And every time I've come through adversity, I go to the harp and it's deeper. The interpretation is more profound. I have more to say. I have more to share and communicate, because it's been so, so hard. And yet I have not quit.
I love it. And you not only do you not quit, you created a show, Woman on a Ledge, without giving up too much about the show. Tell us about it. What makes you want to bring this to the audience, and what can we expect when we do show up to one of these shows of yours?
Well, growing up as a daughter of a famous musician, there's a lot of repression. And in Vancouver in 1996, I met a real live playwright named Kiko Gonzalez Rizo, a very gifted individual, and we became friends. And one day I said, Kiko, I'm intuiting, I have to do some acting, but I don't want to be the famous harpist. I want to go in a hole in the wall and do it privately, but I got to work some of this stuff out. And I said, can you help me? Do you know a teacher? Do you know somewhere I can go and do this? He said, I'll think about it. And instead, he put in a proposal to the Playwright Seedling Project on Granville Island. 200 applications, 8 were chosen, and his was one of the 8. And it was called Harp and Solo. It was a film noir short. And there I am, having to be on stage, not in the hole in the wall. And he worked with me about 80 hours. I was terrified. I was cowering in the corner the first rehearsal. I'm dressed as Bogart, and I'm there to delayer and discover all of this inside that needs healing. But he put it all metaphorically into the play. And the dress rehearsal in a high school auditorium in front of my friends. There's a moment in that play where I cut loose near the end and scream, cry out. Well, I had always been doing it at home, so I couldn't let go. But that night in the school auditorium, I let go. And this is the 4-year-old child that came out. Now, Kiko, who had written it and was expecting it, nearly fell off his chair. My friends were so shocked. They couldn't, Rita, this, little Rita who never says a word, who's shy, who's this and that. Well, I didn't know if I could finish the play. I did. And I went back to my dressing room and I curled up in the corner in fetal position on the floor and trembled. That's how profound this catharsis was. Well, Kiko said he discovered an actor that night. So now he wanted to downplay the famous harpist, and he wanted me to come out now as an actor. And when I came to New York, I landed in this office and worked with this fabulous director, and this has become an important part of my expression and my career. And I will say honestly, the harp repertoire, maybe you know this, is not great. We're not violinists, we're not pianists. We don't have Beethoven concerti. We don't have Shostakovich. We don't have great repertoire. And I never felt there was anything in the harp repertoire that I could really sink my teeth to express the angst and all of the stuff that now I was expressing as an actor. So fast forward 2015, I meet the producer, Hershey Felder, who does one-man composer shows on the piano. And he immediately identified that I would be someone that he would want to work with. But he decided he couldn't promote the show I was doing. He wanted to write a script, and he wanted to write my life story. And that's how Woman on a Ledge came to be. Sadly, COVID happened. He returned to Europe. I was here in New York, so I never became a Hershey Felder Presents. I have been trying to produce it now on my own, but I did. There was a New York director who wanted to work on it with me last year, so I did Off Broadway. I made theater history. I made Broadway history. There's never been a full dramatic script acted by a classical harp soloist. And I did 12 performances, and I've been self-producing, which is amazing because anyone who knows me knows I have, $85 in my savings account. So how is she doing this? But the money somehow comes. And I am so grateful because Joy Yeh decided she wanted to produce it in Vancouver. So I am very touched and grateful that my former students, Joy in Vancouver, there's another one in Toronto, the one in Poland, and now there are people in Brazil. And, wherever I've traveled and they hear about it, they want people to see it and experience it. So I'm very grateful.
I think it's a wonderful thing. We sometimes have some stereotypical image of what a harp performance should look like, a big poofy dress in an orchestra or whatever it is. I think this is going to be a brand new experience. Like you said, no one had done this before. I've got my tickets already for the November show, so I'm going to be there and experience it myself. And I'm just going to say that it must be very cathartic for you to put this out there as a way to kind of celebrate and recognize the path you have traveled. Would that be correct to say?
Yes, it was during COVID that I put it together on my own because, of course, Hershey was now back in Europe. And I did the premiere at my festival in Kansas as directing it myself. Now, the interesting thing is, people in New York, we can't get 5 people to come to a harp recital, but people in New York love theater. So I'm selling out a theater with this theater piece. And I had a gentleman came up after and said, I got to tell you something. I really don't like the harp. But man, after hearing you play it, makes me want to go to a harp concert. And I thought, yes, okay. I get them in the door through theater, but then I can introduce the instrument to them and maybe encourage them to hear it, help my colleagues who are playing recitals. And so this has been a wonderful thing. And it was interesting, Victoria, because running it in 2000, whatever that was, 20, COVID, there was still part of me that hadn't healed the divorce. My husband, it was this great love affair. He was my first and only. And I just, there was a lot for me to delayer. And every day I ran the script, and there'd come a moment I would cry, or I was angry, and the day I knew I had healed, when it got near the time to go to Kansas, was the day I ran the whole script, and I was absolutely emotionally intact at the end. Went into the kitchen and made a cup of coffee. I was fine. And then I knew, okay, and the names have been changed, which was important for objectivity. So it's no longer my story. It's Maria's story. My name in the play is Maria. My husband's name is Marco. So it's about this love affair, and the harp is named Mario, and the violin that he plays is named Marco. So Hershey has done a brilliant, brilliant job of weaving these two stories into a stage play.
Two souls have come together, you and your violin. As for her, we'll call her Maria. Well, my only friend throughout school was Maria. Twirl you around his fingers. Of course you fall in love with him. Listen to him. A man makes love as he plays. Suffer, young man. Suffer. As the sun was slowly disappearing on that now distant Christmas day, a harp had pledged to marry a violin. When he closed his eyes for good, I could see the soul leave him and float into the air. Daddy, what are you thinking now that you are in heaven? Playing Hinnemith? The Hinnemith that doesn't sound like a man playing or a person playing, but sounds like a god. Are you there, Daddy? If your partner doesn't let you shine, or want you to shine, or suffers if you shine, then that person is the wrong partner.
I'm gonna think that when it must help you name and unpack all those emotions as you're working through the play and playing it out, pun intended. And I think that process is healing. And I think that is probably what I think is the most powerful aspect of music. I have heard multiple guests that tells me how they use music as their own tool to heal some of the past traumas and whatnot. And I think it's just also why music has such a profound impact for listeners, because when we can relate to that story, it helps us process our own emotions too.
Yes, absolutely. The ancient Greeks talked about that. There's the actor, the audience, and the darkness in between. And that's where the catharsis happens. You identify. I mean, I had some young women here in New York sobbing in my arms after the show. Most people didn't stay to even talk to me And I thought, oh my God, nobody liked it. And I found out later it was because they were so moved they couldn't talk to me or anyone. They had to leave the theater and be alone and work through some of the things, especially fellow artists, work through some of the themes that had been acted out on stage. But these young women were sobbing in my arms, and I was so grateful. To me, that's the artist's anointing, when you can evoke that kind of response. And to tie into what we were previously talking about, I want to say recently, I experienced a great crisis professionally in July, a betrayal, a huge, huge betrayal. And I really thought, dear God, what, really, it hasn't been enough, now this, right when I think I'm moving ahead and I'm doing well, and then this. And now I understand this testing effect is there for a reason. Because as I'm rehearsing the show now to bring to Vancouver, there are moments that are even more powerful now. And I didn't think they could get any more powerful. They are more powerful because of what I've just gone through. So God, the universe, whatever, is preparing me for the big one.
And to kind of go back to a statement you make earlier, I feel like you went from a musician that played the harp now to an actor who played the harp. And it's like whatever you end up taking on, the harp is an extension of that art act that you're doing. Yeah. And I think that is, like, to me, the ultimate state. Like, you're not played by your instrument, you're in one with it in whatever that you're doing. That is so powerful.
Well, you see, this is what, Kiko was thrilled, for instance, when a lady came up to him after one of my early performances in Vancouver of the piece he had written for Playwrights Theatre Center. And she said, where did you find an actor who was willing to spend so much time to be so intimate with that harp? And he smiled. He thought, yay, now. and so I have to say that there are many musicians who do theater pieces. They come on stage and they fool around and do stuff. I have no. We've been looking. We haven't found anyone who acts a full dramatic script and plays the harp at the level I'm doing it both at. This is the uniqueness of this piece and of my artistry. Yes.
That's awesome. Do you write any music for the piece? What kind of music are we expecting in here from a harpist kind of interest point of view? Because there are a lot of harpists who go for the music and the acting. I'll tell you that.
Yes. Other theater pieces I did write the music for, but this one, no. This is Franz Liszt's Un Sospiro. It is Tournier Sonatine, Tournier Etude de Concert. I have a little bit of New York, Candor and Ebb.
Fun.
I have Adagio of Albinoni. And the theme song is the Sospiro. And this is all the play is taken from my writing, from my soon-to-be published memoir. And I'm trying to think of what else is in there that I could speak about. Even the little elementary pieces that I first learned as a child. When I begin to talk about my childhood, I'm playing those as my background from Fun from the First.
Oh my goodness.
So It's all there.
That's wonderful. I can't wait to see it. But where else are you going to go after Vancouver? Tell us some of the tour destination that you already know that you'll be performing the show at.
Oh, there's no tour,
no?
Victoria. I'm in Vancouver for 2 months.
Okay.
I am performing on the Veda Chamber Music and Recital Society first, 4 concerts for them, doing one of the most difficult chamber pieces ever written, Theseus for harp and string quartet by R. Murray Schafer, Canadian. And then the theater piece 5 days later. Now, this is the stretch for me because usually it's just the theater piece. So to take on all of this, And then Joy, who's so brilliant, has, this Harp Fest every year at
She
the
does.
Academy. And I'll be playing 2 solos and some harp ensemble on that. And then on December 20th in Christchurch Cathedral, I'm doing 2 concerti with the West Coast Symphony. And I thought, well, why come home to New York in between? Let's stay on. My daughter lives in North Vancouver, my grandson. So I'm just staying.
Oh, well, that's actually good news for us, Vancouver East, because we will have many different opportunities to hear you and look at you perform in different dimensions.
Yes, there are plans in the works for Toronto for the theater piece and St. Louis, but nothing's, it takes time, nothing's etched in stone. And this is the point I'm at, Victoria, where I don't have a manager, I don't have an assistant, I don't have anyone to help promote me or to, for instance, organize a tour. And so this is the next step, is finding the right person who really understands me, can represent me, and can get me out there. This is the next step.
I think what you're doing right now will most definitely go up to that, because I'm already very intrigued about who you are, your work.
Oh, thank you.
And I think there will be more people that share a similar intrigue and curiosity about who you are, and would love to see your show. Tell us about some of the moments, looking back at your career so far, that you're particularly fond of or proud of. And is there anything that perhaps you would do differently now that you have a moment to step back and reflect? Any highs and lows that really stood out for you?
I would say the supreme high has been the work in Brazil at the largest classical music festival in Latin America called FEMUS, Festival de Música de Santa Catarina. For about 18 years, every January, I would go down to Jaraguá do Sul, Brazil. I helped spearhead the harp program there for the festival. And this is under the artistic directorship of Alex Klein, a renowned classical oboist. I met him up in Powell River at the festival in 2005, and we just locked. And ever since, we have just not only made music together, but he hired me to teach down at the festival. And the kids in South America, many of them are poor, and the cost of harps and everything. So we had a project there, and a local billionaire, bought 16 pedal harps and shipped them down for my work at the festival, and then to travel around the country during the rest of the year in orchestras and schools to help the students. So I would say that's been, as a teacher and as a performer, that's been the most moving and the real high point. I performed Mozart Concerto with the great French flutist Michel Debost, and the Brazilians just went wild after, and 5 curtain calls. And I mean, I've never experienced anything close to that anywhere else.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you still teach a lot? Is there any opportunities for any of us to maybe study with you or cross path with you in a festival or workshop?
The demands of the theater piece and of the performances I do, I have phased out the kind of private teaching, what I call the after school crowd. I am very happy to give the occasional Zoom lesson, but I love teaching the master classes. Like Joy will have me give master classes at the Academy. And I've done this in Bulgaria, I've done it in Poland, I've done it in South America, Argentina, and Brazil, and Caracas. I went to work with the El Sistema, the system down there, and Australia. And so I really feel that I'm at my best in this masterclass situation, because then many people can hear the teaching all at the same time and learn from hearing people play and watching the example.
Yes, that is something I love about masterclass. It's not so much putting me on the stage and getting the feedback, but I love listening to how the teacher coach other people. And oftentimes
Yes.
we walk out with a lot that we can implement in our own
Yes.
playing. So that's awesome. And do you put your any kind of information about your show and like that in your website? Is that the best place for us to figure out where you're gonna be going to? How do we stay in touch with what you're doing?
Yes, this is the challenge, Victoria, because I'm not on social media. For my spiritual life, I'm not on social media.
Good idea.
And my website has been designed by my record company. Parma Records have done a beautiful job. But I don't have a way of listing, what I'm doing and when. So again, this is the need now for that one person who can administrate it all, make the changes, and create a platform where people can learn about what I'm doing.
I think it will be great once you have that system in place, but I can also appreciate when you're running a one person show. You're everything to your marketing, you're your own, assistant, you're doing the show, you're practicing. It's a lot. It's a lot.
I have to say, I'm not a techie, so I'm proud of myself that I got this far, and I've produced a show. I produced an award-winning little 5-minute documentary called Moonlight in the Bronx, which won an award. I have now produced this CD with Alex Klein, Amoroso, which is beautiful music for oboe and harp. My record company, it did so well, they wanted to remaster this Song of the Stars, which I recorded in 2004. And this is music I played in hospice for the dying. This is music for contemplation and healing, which is now, with the level of anxiety in the world, I'm hoping can get out to the hospices and people who really need it. My friends say they use it for meditation, they use it for yoga class, they use it for road rage, and they use it to fall asleep. So I'm good with that.
And many use of use. Yes, tell us about this. I didn't even know you have a memoir in the works.
Yes, so I self-published.
Okay.
And I just before our interview signed off, so it's going to be available soon on Amazon and in paperback and hard copy. And this is the story of my life in the form of 47 vignettes for the 47 strings of the concert harp.
Oh.
And it's called The Strings of My Heart. And this is what Hershey Felder used to write the stage play. So the stage play that you're going to see in Vancouver is the theater version of this memoir.
How clever, 47 string, of course. I actually, yes, when I was looking at your website, I do notice that you have a couple of albums. So for the listener who are not familiar with your work, which album is a good gateway to Rita kind of album? Which one would you suggest us to be starting with if we have to pick something?
Well, definitely I would start with Amoroso, because the one with oboe, because it's such beautiful music. They're short pieces, so people who don't have a lot of time. But there's one piece that's my favorite. It's the longest piece on the CD. I don't know how many are familiar with that gorgeous, gorgeous slow movement from the Rodrigo Guitar Concerto. But I bought the rights, the theme of that slow movement, and Alex Klein made an arrangement for us that only we are allowed to play. And it's just stunning music and beautiful. And I think the harp and the oboe really blend well together. So, of course, I have a solo classical CD. I have a CD with choir. I have the Song of the Stars. But I think the Amoroso would be a wonderful starting point for people.
Beautiful. I'm going to check that one out. And how do you see yourself in the next, 10, 20 years as you continue your career? Any big dreams you would like to fulfill? Anything that you think would be very important for you to continue to work on beyond what you have shared with us already? I feel like you're a woman with an intention. I feel like you're very intentional with making sure that you're doing things that really resonate with you, and I'm very curious how you see your next little while as a musician that plays a harp and an actor that plays a harp is going to continue to go.
Well, in terms of the memoir, the next step would be an audiobook. A lot of people aren't reading anymore, they're listening. And instead of hiring an actor to do it, when I've done public readings of the vignettes with the harp, people say it's not only what I've written, but hearing it through my voice. So again, all these things take money. I don't know where that's going to come from yet, but that would be the next big project, is to record the book on audio and have some harp music as underscoring some of the vignettes, and touring the theater piece, because I have now, let me see, Hershey delivered the script in June of 2018. And I've been working on it all these years. And I would love, because it's so much work to work it up, and then I do one performance and then I put it away and do the next concert or something. Yes, I would love a producer to step forward who could produce a Canadian tour or a US tour or London or Australia, wherever English is spoken. Because it seems to resonate with people, not only the love affair of a woman for a man, but this love affair of the artist for her instrument. And I think this is why the two women that were sobbing in my arms after, and there were more that were sobbing, but they didn't come to see me, but I found out about it later. And they're all young artists. And the story, what happened, and I don't want to give it away, just what happens near the end is so poignant and so touching and so deep and so heartbreakingly real. And this now, my suffering and my life, I wish to bring to the stage, to the world, to others, and help them to work through their own catharsis, and hopefully come to this same conclusion that I have come, that the art and the instrument are worth suffering for, and it is like eating, breathing, and sleeping. I must. That's it. I must.
There's no other way.
There's no other way. For me. I can't speak for others. For me. There's no other way.
Oh, I'm glad that there are people like you who choose to persevere and hang on to this thing that really matters. Can you imagine if every one of us choose to give up, how boring this world is going to be?
Well, that would be sad, because there's this famous book, The Alchemist, by Brazilian author Paulo Coelho. And near the end, and I quote this often, he says that the universe will test you to see whether you have learned the lessons that you were meant to learn in this lifetime. And what I am finding is every test is a little harder. Oh, you got that one? Okay, let's up the ante. Let's see, Rita, now how you're going to do with this, Okay. And with each test, with each moment of adversity, it's been said adversity initiates us into greatness. And yes, I feel that as a performer, I am more powerful now because of what I have endured. And it didn't break me. I tell people it didn't break me, it broke me open. And this is in the book, to reach deeper. It draws out something deeper. And I can only say thank you, and I can only feel blessed that I had this adversity because as an artist now, I have more to say. And maybe it's more powerful than it would have been if everything had been easy, you know.
It wouldn't nearly be as compelling a story, I think,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And trust me, it doesn't happen in the art world. I often think about, if you're in sales, you make the sale and then your boss is like, okay, now you need to adjust the next target higher. So I think that there's something to be said sort of about adjusting our tolerance, our expectations, and testing what limit we can reach. It can come to us in many different forms. Obviously, I don't wish everyone to have to suffer a whole lot, but like you said, when you do get presented a challenge and then you overcome it, you become better in that process. And I think that does give you more to say. It gives you the confidence to also, I think, say more. In my call before you, and this again, such a coincidence, my friend said, experience only comes from experience. You have to do the thing to get
Yes.
that experience. So if you haven't experienced it, you're not going to be able to live to tell the tale because you will have no tale to tell.
That is very important what you just said, Victoria. Thank you. Because what I have come through this 12 years since my divorce of inner work. I mean, I've been a recluse basically, and ventured out to a few festivals and things. But mostly I have been here in an apartment in the Bronx doing the inner work. And now, yes, so this leads me to speak about the famous author Gail Sheehy, who wrote the famous book Passages. And then she wrote a sequel called Pathfinders. And there's a chapter called Withdrawal, Comeback, Transcendence. And she traces the biographies of Sadat, de Gaulle, Churchill, and I would add Nelson Mandela to this list. Each of these gentlemen had a period of 10 to 15 years where they were in withdrawal, they had a very reclusive life and thought their political fortunes had ended. And in Nelson Mandela's case, he was imprisoned for 23 years, 27 years, something like that. Sadat also was in prison. And then history called them out, and they achieved their greatest, fulfillment and achievement as leaders. And they speak about drawing from that period of introspection, that really made them. And in my case now, I've healed, it's rebirth, and I stand on stage as my own authority, not wife of, not daughter of, not my own authority, in emotional authenticity. Every word you will hear me speak on stage, I have lived, I have suffered, I have wrestled, I have questioned, I have turned inside out. And that's then this moment of transcendence. And you have to earn it. It's glorious. And I don't hide my age. I'm 70, almost soon to be 71. And it's only now in this period of my life that I can do this. I could not do this theater piece age 20. I wouldn't have had anything to say. I wouldn't have had any depth. I wouldn't have any life experience to draw from. Only now can I say, I am real. The story is real. It's been lived in. It's been suffered. And here it is. And I want to add that, the names have been changed. And part of the story takes place in Vancouver. And some people might recognize some of the events. Hershey, Felder, sometimes you change things a little bit in a script to make things flow and to make it move faster. So there are most of it is true to life. There's just a couple little tweaks that changed a little for the story. But the basic storyline and the basic premise are all absolutely true and have been lived.
That is wonderful. And I'm just going to bring in a pop culture reference in here because this is kind of how I'm feeling right now. So Taylor Swift, she recently released an album called The Life of a Showgirl. And in the title track, she talked about this performer that she looked up to, or the fictional character looked up to, and she tell her the life of showgirl is not what you want. It's hard work. You have to earn it. And then at the end, she said she become immortal now because she have lived the life, she put in the work, she experienced it. And I feel like you're now at that stage where you're coming out on the other end. You're now immortal. You can tell that story in the most authentic way you possibly can. And that story would not have ever been there if you have not went through all those ups and downs and traveled the path that you have to. So I think it just, again, for me, like I've never been a big Swiftie, but I just resonate with that theme a lot. And hearing what you say today, I think I'm going to resonate with the theme in your show a lot as well. I'm not nearly as old, but I'm also not young. So I have been through my ups and downs. And yes, I can't wait to see how you translate those stories into your storytelling in the theater piece, and how I, as the audience, is going to see that and kind of scaffold it on my own experience and make sense of my own adversities and ups and downs in my life. I think it will be a wonderful show. I look forward to it, Rita.
Thank you. You know, many people have great success when they're young, and then they get to be my age and they retire, and it's done. In my case, it's the opposite. I raised a family and did all of that, and now all of that is gone, and now I emerge. So this is quite, I pray as long as my health, lasts. This is what I've really dreamed about my entire life doing, and now it's happening.
It's glorious. Do it. Keep doing it, gal.
Yes, thank you. I will. As long as somebody invites me. They have to invite me, and then I'll do
right?
it.
So good news is there's a lot of people listening to the show who also, are interested in partnering with different artists, bringing them into their areas. So if you're one of those listening to this, pay attention to Rita and the show. You might be able to bring that to your corner of the world if you contact her. So I just love that. Thank you so much, Rita, for spending the time today and share your story with us. I couldn't pass up this opportunity. When Joy said, can you talk to her? I'm like, yes. Why would I say no? So I look forward to meeting you in November. And for those who are in Vancouver, make sure you get your ticket. She's going to be in here. How many shows are you giving when you're in Vancouver? Do you remember? I can't.
It's just one, the
right?
Saturday night.
The Saturday night. Okay.
Unless we sell out and there's enough demand, we can spill over to another performance on the Sunday.
Okay.
Or maybe something in December. That would be a question for Joy. But so far it's Saturday night.
Okay. Well, let's feel that theater. I'll see you in Granville Island in a couple of weeks, actually, not too far from now.
Yes, and isn't it wonderful, Victoria, that's where I started my acting career, Granville Island with Kiko Gonzalez Rizo, and look at me. All these years later, I come back. It's very moving for me. Thank you.
It's amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Take care.